Thank you. My morning greetings and appreciation to the sponsors and organizers of this commemorative conference in memory of Father Alcina's 350th death anniversary, led by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, the Provincial Government of Northern Samar, Palapag LGU, Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Incorporated, and the University of the Eastern Philippines, along with partner agencies, respective historians and scholars of Philippine history present, faculty and students, visitors and guests, maupay nga adlaw sa aton nga tanan. Earlier this year, Professor Rolando Borinaga contacted me about presenting a paper related to Father Alcina for a historical conference commemorating his 350th death. Without hesitation, I gladly accepted his request. While I do not consider myself as an expert in historiography, I still remain a student of history, particularly local history, driven by a passion similar to any history enthusiast eager to explore our local heritage. One such topic of interest is Father Alcina's Historia, a monumental manuscript that serves as a testament to his deep love and connection with the Visayan people. Hailing from Catbalogan City and drawing from the historical records indicating Father Alcina's significant service as a missionary, rector, and vice provincial of the Jesuits from the mid-1650s to the late 1660s, I have chosen to explore references to Catbalogan mentioned in Father Alcina's Historia. The title of my presentation is Residencia de Catbalogan in Context of Father Francisco Ignacio Alcina's Historia 1668. Historically, Catbalogan was where Father Alcina completed his manuscript alongside his evangelical work in Samar, where he spent approximately 38 years as a missionary. This paper aims to highlight and narrate significant notes and references pertaining to Catbalogan found within Father Alcina's manuscript, Historia 1668. The structure of my presentation will begin with a brief overview of the Residencia de Catbalogan during the early years of Jesuit evangelization. I will then provide a brief narrative of the life and mission of Father Alcina and the completion of his monumental manuscript. Finally, I will sequentially discuss these notes and references in Catbalogan found in parts 1 and 2 of his Historia. The Christian faith in Catbalogan traces its beginnings to the Jesuit evangelization that first began and planted in the ancient village of Tinago. Tinago is now Barangay Dapdap in the municipality of Tarangnan, Samar. On October 15, 1596, composed of the three Jesuit missionaries, Father Francisco Otazo, Father Bartolome Martes, and a lay brother Domingo Alonso, they introduced catechism and the Christian doctrine to the natives, conducted baptisms, healing the sick people. They went to village and spread the good news to the neighboring settlements. The village of Tinago was later raised into a residencia or central residence of the Jesuits on Samar Island. Father Francisco de Otazo was made as the first Jesuit rector of the Tinago or Samar Residencia. He was later succeeded by Father Juan de Sanlucar in 1599. In 1601, Father Sanlucar was succeeded by Father Alonso Manes. From 1601 until 1616, the Tinago mission have accomplished a huge task in propagating the Christian faith to the settlements of Samar Island when another cabecera was to be founded in Palapag. So this is the artist's impression showing the arrival of the first batch of Jesuits in Tinago, as sketched by the Catbaloganon cartoonist Dinkoy Miel. And the other picture is a bronze relief depicting the arrival of the first missionaries to Samar. It can be found in the Samar Historical Obelisk erected in 1997. So in 1616, the residential cabecera of the Jesuit missionaries in Tinago was burned by the Moro pirates. The Jesuits decided to transfer it to the fishing village of Catbalogan, situated in the Anchao River, facing the beautiful Maqueda Bay. The visitas of Kutay, Kanhawan, Kawayan, and others were merged into a new pueblo. Catbalogan became the new residencia and cabecera of Samar with a jurisdiction over 6 pueblos, namely Paranas, Calbiga, Umawas, Bangaon or Gandara, Hibatang or Calbayog, and Kapul Island. So this is the ruins that can be found in the present-day Dapdap, Tinaga ruins. All right. So the life and mission of Father Francisco Ignacio Alsina. Father Alsina was born in Gandia, Valencia, Spain on February 2, 1610. He entered the Society of Jesus in the province of Aragon in the year 1624 at the age of 14. Later, he was chosen for the Philippine missions where he was 22 years old and still a cleric in the theological studies. In 1631, he left Saragossa, Spain on the feast of the apparition of Saint Michael the Archangel, together with Father Rafael de Bonafé, to whom he dedicated his colophon in his Historia. On June 18, 1631, together with other Jesuit missionaries, they sailed from Cadiz, and on the first day of August, they arrived in Veracruz, Mexico. They left Acapulco on February 23, 1632, and sighted the first land of these islands, the Philippines, on the 15th of March of the same year. There were 21 Jesuits left Cadiz and all arrived at Manila, except Father Mateo Aguilar, who died near these islands. Okay, they arrived in Manila on the 26th of May, 1632, and Father Alsina stayed in Manila for 2.5 years, where he completed his studies. Then in 1634, he was ordained to the sacrament of priesthood in Cebu by the bishop, His Excellency Fray Pedro de Arce of Cebu. Father Alsina's ministry took him most of the towns in Samar and also to Leyte and Cebu. He was first assigned in Borongan in 1634, then to Paranas in 1637, Carigara in 1645, Cebu in 1649, and during that time, the Palapag Rebellion occurred. Then, he was made director of Catbalogan Residencia from 1653 to 1656, then went to Manila when he became ill in 1657, Palapag in 1657 to 1666, and returned once again to Catbalogan in 1666 to 1670. So after he completed his assignments as rector of Catbalogan Residence and his tenure as vice provincial for the Visayan region, around April 1670, he departed from Samar and arrived to Manila, where he remained at the Church of San Miguel, the retirement house for the Jesuit missionaries. Okay, so this is the picture showing the lithograph photo of the old stone church of Catbalogan. Alright, so from his arrival to Manila, he was still able to serve the parish of San Miguel for 3 years before his demise. He officiated a total of 73 baptisms from July 17, 1670 to April 14, 1674. And then on July 30, 1674, or 350 years ago, Father Alsina summoned to eternity on the eve of the feast of his founder, St. Ignatius of Loyola. He died at the age of 64 and 50 years as a Jesuit priest. So this is the recorded biography of Father Alsina, taken from the book Historia de Filipinas by Father Pedro Murillo Velarde. Okay. Immediately after his ordination to the priesthood in Manila in 1634, and upon assuming his missionary assignment to Borongan, Father Alsina began searching, inquiring, and making extensive notes about all the newness and uniqueness around him. He gathered information from the Visayan Samareños about their ancient costumes, traditions, beliefs, their poems, ballads, songs, and epics. It was only in 1667 when he was given a break from his intense ministry. Father Alsina has taken to task the mountains of material he had accumulated and written down through the years, and began rewriting, organizing, arranging, editing it into final draft. Much of it was penned in Palapag, as he mentioned several times in the narrative. In his preface, Father Alsina writes, "I began putting down on paper for a span of more than 34 years, during which I have dealt with, lived in, and visited the greater part of the Visayan Islands, communicating a great deal with the natives and inhabitants, about whom I am writing here, and from whom I have received not a little of this information. In order to aid my memory, I kept jotting down and retaining all this with the aid of a more than an average knowledge and their language, taking advantage from spare time and motivated by the opportunity of being away for some time from the ministerial task. I began to rewrite in an orderly manner what I had in the rough draft. Then Father Alcina continues, therefore, from the labyrinth of loose and disorderly papers, which were like a ball of yarn, I began unraveling the threads. I succeeded in pulling apart and untangling that ball, and thereby preparing a neat copy within a space of some 9 or 10 months. For so many years, I had all that in a heap of a rough draft. He started writing his Historia on November 1, 1667, the feast of the guardian angels, the patron of the Visayan Islands. He said, according to Open Up Today, to the foundations of the spiritual edifice of the Visayas, a day dedicated as it is to the Blessed Father Francisco de Borja, Duke of Gandia, my fatherland, and to whom I naturally owe my vassalage, third superior general afterwards of the society, and the first who sent apostolic missionaries to the Indies of the West. So this is the actual signature of Father Alcina himself. This was taken from his annual letter penned to the Vice Provincial of the Philippines, Father Juan Marin. Father Alcina completed the final draft of both Part 1 and Part 2 of this invaluable history, seemingly by June or July 1668 in Catbalogan, where he was director of the Catbalogan Residential and Vice Provincial for the Visayan region. Around January 1670, Father Alcina completed his rectorship in Catbalogan and his duties as Vice Provincial. He was assigned to the Jesuit retirement in San Miguel, and he left Samar around April 25, 1670. While in San Miguel, Manila, he prepared the multi-volume manuscript for publication in Spain. It all consumed much time, first in assigning the amanuenses to make careful copies and duplicates of the manuscript. Secondly, in obtaining permission from the ecclesiastical and civil authorities and carrying it for an imprimatur. Thirdly, the long journey of the manuscript to Spain via the Manila Galleon. He must have waited with great anticipation in seeing his Historia, and he never saw it for its publication. So, like many Jesuit publications, according to Father Alcina, most of them never saw the light of print. So this is the cover page of Father Alcina's Historia de las Islas y Indios de Visayas. Okay. So notes and references on Catbalogan found in Father Alcina's Historia. In Part 1 of Father Alcina's Historia, Catbalogan was mentioned 6 times, with topics on flora, fauna, bodies of water, natural phenomenon, navigation for sea transportation, and a portion of its ancient history. While in Part 2, there were at least 8 major topics that pertains to Catbalogan. Much of it are focused on historical events recorded by Father Alcina, such as his personal account on the Palapag Revolt in 1649 and its aftermath, narratives on the Moro raids in the early 1600s, the foundation of towns and missions, and details of his missionary work and personal observation. Okay, so but due to the limited time, I will only make a run-through of these chapters and discuss with you briefly each detail. So let's begin with Part 1 of his Historia. So in Part 1, Book 1, Chapter 15, this concerns about the age and qualities of palm and its varieties. So Father Alcina extensively discussed here the properties and characteristics of the coconut tree and other types. So in the succeeding paragraphs, there was a passage that mentions about the tuba. So tuba was used to catch monkeys, where he observed, okay, that these monkeys frequently steal this tuba while he was a minister in Paranas. So Paranas was under the Residencia de Catbalogan. Okay. Next. In Part 1, Book 2, Chapter 18, concerning about notable fish, although smaller than those mentioned, their particular qualities, the good and bad, Father Alcina mentioned about the isda called kugtong. Are you familiar with kugtong? Diba? Ang sering panira monster fish. Okay. So, according to Father Alcina, kugtong is frequently caught in the port of Catbalogan, which is the main town of Samar and where the alcalde mayor or Spanish governor resides. Consumption of this fish often leads to fatal and adverse effects. And there was a certain incident around 1627 that caused the significant population of Catbalogan to decline, okay, due to the pestilence originating from this fish. So, poisonous pala yung isdang kugtong. Okay. For Part 1, Book 2, Chapter 20, Father Alcina encountered the third kind of ambergris, an item that few times found in Catbalogan, but he did not focus it due to its poor quality. This is a piece dismissed by Father Alcina for being low quality that ended up being taken by a certain mestizo traveler who sold it as a valuable amber in Manila, leading to a fraudulent transaction and legal issues. This incident serves as a cautionary tale about the risk of deceit in commerce, especially if the true quality of items is not recognized. Okay. So in Part 1, Book 2, Chapter 20, okay? So Father Alcina recounted the volcanic eruption of a certain volcano called Tikala. So today, wala tayong maririnig na bulkang Tikala, di ba? But according to the annotation of Father Kobak, this Tikala mountain could be the Mount Hibok-Hibok in Camiguin. Okay, Father Alcina encountered this incident that the eruption, the noise of the eruption brought to Luzon and in other various places, included the sounds resembling like a heavily artillery bombardment and musketry discharges, as well as the drum beats, which were terrifying and widespread. These noises experienced even in Catbalogan, Samar, caused great panic as each town feared that they were under attack, highlighting the consistent and rapid nature of the phenomenon which had its epicenter in the earth. Okay, in Part 1, Book 4, Chapter 2, this is a pre-colonial history about Father Alcina where he mentioned a certain Kasilagan or a Indio whose name means invid, was heavily built and extensively tattooed as he was equally corpulent wife. They both passed away a few years ago after being released from captivity in Catbalogan, where survivors gathered following an attack with the descendants still residing in Paet. Okay, in Part 2 of Father Alcina Historia, Part 2, Book 1, Chapter 16, the Palapag Rebellion of 1649, Father Alcina recounted briefly on the progress of the Christian faith in Samar and the Congregation of the Virgin in the two cabeceras of Catbalogan and Palapag. He also mentioned how the Arab men were gathering in Catbalogan for the punitive expedition to Catbalogan to end the rebellion there. Later, these armed men returned to Catbalogan in order to strengthen itself with more men and supply itself with more provisions, of which it was short. During the midst of so many burnings and sacrileges, many pious persons or Christian Visayans provided notable proofs of purity and firmness of their faith throughout all these trials. From those towns in Ibabaw area, which had risen up in a rebellion, many fled to the cabecera of Catbalogan, where the Jesuit fathers and the Spaniards were gathering and readying an armed force to quell the rebellion. Okay, after the death of the Jesuit priest, Father Vicente Damian, the minister of Catubig, the men burned the church. However, a certain image of Our Lady was miraculously spared. According to Father Alcina, this image was carried to the town of Catbalogan, Gindarangat to Catbalogan, where the fathers and Spaniards were gathered together with one another, which some devout natives of Catubig had rescued when the insurgents burned the church. It was well sculptured and with a child in its arms, quite large and very artistic. It was brought in a solemn procession to the church and placed to the main altar. Then in Part 2, Book 1, Chapter 19, an account on the evangelization of Samar. So according to Father Alcina, the cabecera of the residents of Samar remained in the site of Tinago for almost 20 years because by October 1596, the first fathers arrived in Tinago. They were Father Raimundo del Prado and Father Otaso, as I have mentioned earlier. Okay, they arrived on that ancient village. And therefore, Father Francisco de Otaso was the first superior and laborer of these residents. Sadly, the following folios are missing because this is part of the fragmented books of Father Alcina's Historia. Gingamit na da pagputos ha Botica Espanya. Sayang. Alright, for Part 2, Book 1, Chapter 19, this chapter has a title, The Beginning of Paying Tribute by the Palapagnons and the Merging of the Towns of Catbalogan. So, in this chapter, it mentioned that Palapag started to pay tribute by the year 1614, and Catbalogan was founded in the year 1616 with the merging of other visitas such as Kotay, Kanhawan, and Kawayan. Also, he added that since it took place about this time in 1616, and perhaps it will not happen again, rendering each its due, how at the beginning of this year they anchored off the island of Kapul, a visita of this cabecera of Catbalogan, which is located, as we have said, at very mouth of the Strait of San Bernardino. So there were 6 Dutch ships that docked in Kapul during this year. So the Dutch did not cause any damage to the natives. On the contrary, they entertained them. And then on Part 2, Book 1, Chapter 20, there was a chapter about the execution of Dato Pagali in Catbalogan. So Dato Pagali is one of the important personages who is involved in the Bangka Revolt in Carigara. So the corregidor took along with himself to Catbalogan the cabecera of Leyte and Samar, manlupig ab panahon, who proclaimed himself a diwatahan or sacrificer. Pagali was the one who came from Baybay and who was quartered, had made himself a sacristan or priest, was made to die as a sacrifice. They burned him in Catbalogan in the presence of many people who gathered for his spectacle never before witnessed in these parts. And then there was a chapter by Father Alcina on the first Camocun raid. Okay, the Camocunes, one of the pirates during the 1600s. So it happened on the one Saturday of the month of October, at dawn, where Catbalogans invoked the Virgin Mary as patroness against these enemies. So what happened? The Camocones strike, coming steadily in the dawn when most of the people are still asleep. But the church bell are just now ringing for the Angelus, and the Camocones themselves, as was their custom, accompanied their attack with frightening shouts. The sleeping town was rose in time for some of the townsfolk to escape. So the rector during that time was Father Jeronimo Perez. So Father Perez met the 3 Spanish ladies, the corregidor's wife and daughters, who have run straight from bed completely naked. The Camocones did not pursue those who flee, but even so, live up to their notoriety for complete plunder. Yung mga Camocones, kakaiba siya sa ibang types ng mga Moro pirates, such as the Holoans, the Sanggils, the Magandanaons, and the Caragas. Yung ginagawa ng mga Camocones, di sila pumapatay, pero yung ginagawa nila is na booty. Yung anong makita nila, nag-strip lang sila, kinukuha yung mga treasures, something like that. Okay? So they stripped the church and the other houses of the cabecera. However, they carried away some prisoners and some travelers and fishermen in the small boats they captured in the bay. But there was a smallpox during that time plaguing Catbalogan for almost 2 years already. Those they captured, stricken the Camocones behead, but their greed, the Camocones took even the clothes of the deceased and themselves soon wrote the pox. Okay, so after the terrible experience of Father Jeronimo Perez, he was later transferred to Mindanao to help his co-missionary evangelize the Muslim areas, where he would start to pen the La Grandia Comedia de la Toma del Pueblo Coralat y Conquista del Cerro. Or this would become the first ever comedia or moro-moro written in the Philippines, a play that depicts and commemorates the victory of General Sebastian Hurtado de Corcuera over Sultan Kudarat or Kachil Coralat. Okay, then the year after, bumalik ang mga Camocones, 1626. But this time, prepared na yung mga Catbaloganons because of the leadership of Captain Juan Leon de Vandalo, who is ready for them. He had built a small fort of logs in one of it has one arquebus. When the Camocones attempted to storm the church, they fall within the range of fire from the arquebus, and they retreated, turning towards Tumalistis, ransacking houses as they go. Some Jesuit brothers, Agustin Leal, rally from the fort, followed by natives. The Camocones panic, dropped all their booty, and flee. Then, the next year, or the following year, another type of pirates pillaged Catbalogan. These are now the Joloans. On his way back to Jolo from failed mission in Manila, the great Dato Hatche raided Camarines, then splitting his fleet in two, one going to Leyte and the other going to Samar. The Joloans appeared ashore in Cape Cugao and were met with artillery fire from the fort of Catbalogan. They backed off towards Tumalistis, where Catbaloganons lay in ambush, but before they get there, they heard what sounds like a mighty troop of defenders coming at them in a rush. But actually, mga cattle lang pala. They let out their chorus and set stampeding along the shore. Running for their lives, as it were, and swimming there, they made for their boats, which they have anchored quite a way off and sailed away. It was a proud victory for Catbalogan, even though the enemy has been led only by Dato Hatche, and not by Dato Hatche's subaltern, and not by Dato Hatche himself, who is then wreaking great havoc on Leyte. This same year, the Camocones returned to Samar for the third time. They veered toward the east, sailing through the Embocadero of Balicuatro to raid the towns of Biri, Lauang, and Palapag, before rounding towards Catbalogan. The corregidors do the same. Captain Juan de Leon Vandalo meets them in a battle at sea, capturing some of their smaller vessels. The remaining boats turn tail. Prior to putting out to sea, Captain Vandalo offered to the Virgin of Catbalogan. The first time he had been knifed by the Camocones, who made 2 slashes, one on her face and the other on her neck, and to the child Jesus whom she bore in her arms, and which had a deep slash in its neck. Afterwards, however, both were restored and these marks were removed. He promised to present to her, the Virgin, all the booty that he would take from the enemies, so that it may be used in fashioning a crown of silver for her and another for the child Jesus. And so with this fine pledge, Captain Vandalo and his men succeeded. He encountered the enemy engaged in battle. A manner of fighting consists in flight, and the Camocones never fight face to face, and captured some vessels with all they carried, stole of which was theirs. They caught only a few captives because when they are firstly pursued, they leave their ships and transfer to others so as to row more vigorously and thereby flee more quickly. So once this was accomplished, he returned victoriously to Catbalogan, where he fulfilled what he had promised to the Virgin. So interestingly, the places that was mentioned in Father Alcina's Historia, such as Tumalistis and Cape Cugao, can still be found today, or is still existing. So this circle, the Fuente, is that present-day Tomalistes, and this part naman is the Cape Cugao. Agapay niya na. Okay. And the version that was mentioned in Father Alcina, many claim that it is the Our Lady of the Rosary of Ubanon, okay, or the Virgin of Catbalogan mentioned by Father Alcina. And then part 2, book 2, chapter 3, Father Alcina wrote briefly on this chapter about the reduction that was made to the towns and the first division into four cabeceras in these two islands, Samar and Leyte. So the first cabecera was Tinago on October 15, 1596, and it was transferred later to Catbalogan in 1616. The other cabeceras were in Palapag, then in Leyte naman, the residensya of Carigara and Dulag. And on part 2, book 3, chapter 25, Father Alcina mentioned about the personal observation of sea traders from Giwan. According to him, in the year 1667, he had witnessed how these Giwananon traders came to Catbalogan on their way to Manila with 3 caracoas heavily loaded with oil, the one perhaps which carried the least numbered 120 jars of the said liquid. In the manner of measuring, it would amount to about 15 or 16 gantas to a jar or just a little more. And so the smallest one of them, all caracoas, carried almost 2,000 gantas, while the largest double the amount. In this manner, lived and supported itself the wealthiest town of all. So during that time, Giwan is the wealthiest among all pueblos in Samar because of this economic trade na ginagawa nila. Okay, so this is the illustration of Caracoa by Father Alcina. Okay. So in appraisal, Father Francisco Alcina's Historia holds profound significance in both local and national historiography. It serves as a foundational text documenting the cultural, social, political, and religious aspects of the Visayan people during the Spanish colonial periods, particularly on the 17th century. The systematic organization and overall scientific approach of Alcina's work make it invaluable for anthropological, ethnological, historical, and cultural studies. And lastly, the extensive and detailed content offers rich material for students and experts across various fields, providing a fundamental basis for historical understanding of the Visayan people in particular and Visayan region in general. Damo nga salamat, maupay nga.